This is a continuation. We've had technical difficulties. I'm sure it is Jesus or Satan every time we have technical. This is a continuation of my school educational system in Utah. I'm going to try to pick up the first part of the video. Who knows? I don't know how to do half this stuff. But anyway, I was back on the Davis School District, and finally they lifted the trespass order, and they basically started treating me somewhat decently because I was costing them a lot of money. Most parents don't stand up for themselves in the state of Utah. Let me give you one example. At the beginning of school each year, the state of Utah is supposed to give out a federal pamphlet saying what people's I can't even keep a straight face, what people's rights are. Well, guess what? The state of Utah does not even hand that out. You have to go to the main district office to get a copy of it, and then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it says, what the rules and the regulations are. It doesn't matter because they don't obey it. The Mormons are historically notorious for not obeying the law. They say they are, but they're not. Now, when I went over their books, on their, I can't do this with a straight face either. When I was in this entire locked law court system with the state of Utah Department of Education, they get money. They get money from the federal government. And guess what? Only a Mormon could find this kind of a scam, a Ponzi scheme. The federal government gives them so much money for special education services. If they can provide those services for less money, they get to keep the extra money. Man, when you say gratis to a Mexican-speaking person, a Spanish-speaking person, and gratis to a Mormon, you got radar ears. So they don't provide the services. The services are tenuous, they're erratic and sporadic, but that federal money keeps rolling in, and the State Department of Education can raise their own salaries, they can raise their perks, their vacations, and if you're in the in-group and you're wearing garments, you're wearing federal money garments. So I went down to complain. Jesus, you can't complain in the state of Utah. Even if you wear garments on your head, a complaint is not welcome. And so I went down to the State Department of Education in Salt Lake City, and there's a guard there. See, there's a guard everywhere in Utah. It's kind of like a third world terrorist country. And I told the guard what my name was, and he looked down on his chart and he says, well, you're not allowed in the building. I said, this is a public building. It serves more than the Department of Education in here. And he said, well, my instructions is that you're not to enter the building. I go, jeez, I don't need to be in a Utah jail. I'm sure I'll get justice there, right? So I leave. My experience in Jordan School District and Davis School District and the Mormons saying we are so proud that we spend the least amount of money on education than any other state in the United States. Boy, there's something to be real proud of. Now, at the same time, they're building a $5 billion mall for the rich people in downtown Salt Lake. Well, you look up on the hills and you see all these trophy homes and you see all these Mercedes and BMWs, mostly for Ponzi schemes and get rich quick and, pyramid programs, but be that as it may, those people don't want to pay an extra $10 a month to have decent books and pencils. Now, I'm telling you, this is just my experience, okay? I went to the junior high when my child was registering, and they said that Utah State history was a requirement. I said, that's reasonable. Go get me a Utah State history book, will you please? I didn't even get to the 5th chapter of that book, and here's a big picture of Joseph Smith in the State of Utah history book. Now, my history is that Joseph Smith never ever stepped a step in the state of Utah. Well, you turn the next page and there's Brigham Young. Well, at least he was governor. At least there's some reason to have him in a history book. But I handed the history book back to the counselor and I said, you know what? This is nothing but a public relations arm of the Mormon Church. I'm an American and I have a right to say to you, my child is not taking Utah history. We are not Mormons, and we don't want to be Mormons, and we're happy that we're not Mormons. You can teach your religion and your textbooks to other people who want to see them. We don't. And I want my child excused from state history. Well, you don't have to pick the phone up too much as a state administrator in Utah and say, you know, there's a man here, and they'll say, is his name such and such? And they'll go, yep, that's him. So, give him whatever he wants. So my child now is excused from the state of Utah Mormon history. I didn't see the Mountain Meadows Massacre in that textbook. What a coincidence, you know? So my child comes home. I can't do this with a straight face. These people have fooled so many educated, knowledgeable people. How can people be this stupid? My child comes home, and I have to admit, I flunked algebra in 7th grade, and then at BYU, it's the only class at BYU I flunked. I flunked it, and I had a tutor. It just doesn't go in here. When you mix the alphabet with numbers, I just don't function. So she comes home with her algebra, and she says, Dad, can you help me with this? And I said, well, I'll try. I said, I'm not very good at it, to say the least, but I'll try to help you with your homework. Where's your textbook? She goes, we don't have one. I said, what? She said, we don't have one. We just have papers that came out of the printer. If you're a parent and you don't think that is outrageous, I'm going to, venture to say you're not much of a parent. When they had certain phrases and terminology and examples, I didn't have that, and neither did she, because there's no book. There's no book. So I went in to the counselor again, and of course they have a little rope that says, David, follow this rope, because they know I'm going to be over there. And so I sit down with the counselor and I say, what the hell is going on over here? How do you teach math without a textbook? Well, this lady was probably 55 and the Relief Society president of the local church there, and she looked at the ground and she said, well, I don't want to say it, but I agree with you. I said, well, you work here and you can't say anything and you can't do anything. There will be retaliation. I know these Mormons, you will lose your job. But I'm telling you, because they can't touch me, this is the most stupid educational system I've ever had the privilege of being involved in. I said, when you try to teach kids science, she doesn't have a science book. When you try to teach kids math, she doesn't have a math book. How about geology or geography without a book? So the school district relies very heavily on parent donations. I had to pay over $100 for the first year that my child was in 7th grade. $100. What was the fee for? I don't know. I don't know. But if you didn't pay it and you weren't in the welfare system, your child couldn't go to school. It goes on and on and on. Every day my children from the elementary school and the junior high come home with handouts. Popcorn, 25 cents. Please give your child two 25 cents, 50 cents for popcorn tomorrow. 25 of it goes to Uruguay for their children who are starving, and 25 go to our school system who is also starving. My little one comes from elementary school and she says, Dad, what's a box top? And I said, well, it's a cereal box top that shows that you bought some cereal. And she says, I have to take 50. I said, 50 box tops? She goes, yes, I will be in big trouble. They put the pressure on these little kids to come home, and then we have a supermarket that's called Smith's, and Smith's is in cahoots, and they're Mormons, and they're in cahoots with the state school system. And so if you buy your groceries over at Smith's, then they cut a piece of the percentage over to the school district. But compared to Smith's prices and Walmart prices, only stupid people would shop at Smith's. But you know, that's a qualification of being a modern Mormon. You got to be stupid. So they're constantly trying to sell pencils and popcorns and paper, and we have to provide all of the paper, all of the pencils, all of the booklets. We had to buy the gym suits and the uniforms. We have to buy. And then there's a requirement in the school system that you have to take music. Well, I don't see anything technically wrong with that. That's a good thing for kids. But then when I told the school district, well, my daughter plays classical piano, can she, you know, implement that into your requirement? And they go, no. Why? I said, well, we have a deal with a band company downtown, and it's only flutes, tubas, and trumpets, and piccolos or something. I go, I says, you have no percussion instruments? He says, oh, we have the cymbals. I go, okay. I wonder if this band company downtown are owned by Mormons. I don't know, but I've lived long enough with them to know it is. And I see all the kids carrying these cases back and forth, and they have to rent those instruments per month. And so I assume that the band company, music company, makes money off of that, and maybe they rebate back some of that to the school district. Well, then it came to, did I want to pay an extra $20 fee? And I said, well, gee, you know, what is this for? They go, oh, that's for inline skating. I said, oh, well, she has inline skates. Can I just send her skates with her? Oh, no. You have to rent the skates from this skating company. Scam after scam after scam after scam. These people are relentless and they're ruthless. They will say with their mouth, we love children. And they say with their pocketbooks and the schooling of their children, we hate children. We don't want to pay any more than the federal government makes us. If there wasn't a federal government, Utah would be Nazi land. The prophet of the Mormon Church would be like Brigham Young ordering the Mountain Meadows massacre. Now, some of you watching are LDS. I just learned the other day, someone wrote me the other day, I didn't know this, okay? When Brigham Young went down to the Mountain Meadows massacre, and he saw the sign that says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, he turned to Wilford Woodruff, another president and prophet of the Mormon Church, and in Woodruff's journal, Woodruff wrote down that Brigham looked at him and said, vengeance is mine, and I've just had a little. That's the first direct link I have ever seen to Brigham Young ordering the Mountain Meadows massacre. I was positive that he did, but it was only on superficial evidence, circumstantial evidence. That journal of Wilford Woodruff is enough for me now to believe that Brigham Young did believe in vengeance. He was in charge of the Danites. Porter Rockwell and others had killed, I forget if it's somewhere around 60 people, the Danites killed. And they were guards of Brigham Young. Well, Mormon hierarchy needs guards. There's many people that hate this religion. I don't hate it, I just find that it's not true, and it's not for me and my family. But there was a bishop down in California just 6 months ago that a man walked in and said, are you the bishop? And he said yes, and he shot him right in the face and killed him. Well, why do the Mormons have to have bodyguards? And some of you, it goes through my mind, well, the Pope was shot at. I guess some people get angry at the Pope. But there's a lot of reasons that Mormons are extremely angry with leadership. The Mormon Church sucks the life and the money right out of you. Other churches you can walk away from and they don't chase you and they don't threaten you and cause fear. So, a long story short, the Utah educational system is Homie the Clown show of the United States of America. They pay the least amount of money, the kids get the least amount of schooling, and let me tell you something about the state of Utah. Not just the school system, but the entire state. I don't care if it's the Department of Motor Vehicles, I don't care if it's the post office, I don't care. Mormons hate to work, and they don't have enough time for themselves and their families. and they're always running to meetings, and they're the bishopric meeting, and there's the stake president, and it goes on and on and on. So what they do is steal from their employers. Go over to any school, I don't care what it is. The only people there that are at 4 o'clock on Friday are the teachers. The administration is all off to meetings. All of their machines are set to answer your phone calls. You can't get a meeting on a Friday. They just leave. And that's starting a little bit on Thursdays now, but on Fridays, you can't find a Mormon at their desk or job if it was the last thing in the world. And I've seen this go on and on and on, and Utah has moved to a 4-day work week now. They're talking about maybe putting that back for its state employees, so the state employees have a 3-day vacation. So these people have a long history of revenge, a long history of cruelty, and a long history of getting things their way. And the only time that Mormons agree with you is when you threaten to sue them. The publicity they can't stand because it exposes them for who they are. And so if you're having trouble with Mormons or their educational school system or special education services, just threaten to sue them and be prepared to follow through. A lot of times they think you're bluffing. They found out with me that I wasn't. And my kids now are average students in the school system, but I had to fight tooth and nail these 504 services and the special education services of the state of Utah. Their tests are designed not to give special ed services. They take all of their children who are handicapped and put them over in one school. They don't mainstream their children like the federal law says that they should. You don't see a wheelchair over at the regular elementary school. You don't see kids on crutches. You don't see kids on oxygen. You don't see kids in the classroom with AIDS. They do not mainstream. They hide their less fortunate. They hide their handicap because their church says that basically children that are handicapped or less than normal are evil. That parents who had those children weren't living the gospel. That parents who fathered and mothered special ed kids did something. Jesus is mad, so he gives them a defective, if you want to use that ugly word, a defective child. Well, I worked with special education kids my whole life, and residential treatment. They have a soft spot in my heart, and some of the most precious and angelic humans that I've ever met, and I certainly would trust them a lot more than I would trust an average Mormon. So, if you want your kid in the Utah educational system, you might as well get ready for your child to be on welfare, unemployment, and basically a point of the mountain prison. And make sure they don't ask for a pencil. Make sure that no one in Utah that's a child that wants to do their homework asks for a pencil from the educational system. It's sad. It's pathetic and sad. Thank you very much.